Yeah, see, there are more cars. That looks like an RV of some sort, maybe a camper trailer. More cars
like
along the frontage road that go along
driven into the mud flow.
And just how extensive this goes. You can just see how many exits. So you get to San Ysidro exit. There's the new Miramar being built right there in the lower right-hand corner. And then the beach below. They're working on the boardwalk area at the bottom of your screen. And there's the area you were talking about, Beth, where it dumps out at and you can see the creek just runs right through that field.
And a rainbow.
And it looks like we're having more rain in some parts of Montecito. You can see the beach just to the right, Fernald Point area. I think that's Fernald Point.
You know, as devastating as this is, and historically life-changing as it is, this community is amazing, and we will rebuild and we will come back, and the businesses that have been really damaged by this as well. We saw with the Thomas Fire, the community coming together. This will be a much larger effort and a much longer effort, but the heart and soul and love of this community is so strong. It will be okay, but it's going to be interesting to see the change, the permanent change for these communities, just the face of it.
Yeah, people just didn't think what we're looking at right now was even possible. You can see how the mud flow just snaked through and ripped out a home right there. Some of the homes that have been taken out, you can't even see them because of the canopy of trees. That looks like obviously a road, but it's covered in mud.
Just to give you a 2-minute warning, so to speak, not really a warning,
there's
just
a house
a notice
buried in mud right there.
We are going to carry this press conference at 4 o'clock, answering a lot of questions from emergency officials, and we will bring it to you live in its entirety.
And this home right here, if they pull back, you can see how the creek kind of bends, makes a turn. That home is right where the creek turns. So the water wasn't going to turn with the creek, and it just blew out the homes right there in front of it.
And as we talked with the National Weather Service, Robbie Monroe, talking about the intensity. You know, we're repeating this: the volume of water, the intensity of that rain, the duration of that rain, and the charred hillsides. All a perfect recipe for an absolutely deadly disaster.
You know, last night we were just praying. We were giving all these warnings. We were really, really hoping that we would not see the worst of what the storm was going to bring. Al and I had a lot of talks last night about, we're going to warn folks. We're going to pray that this doesn't happen. We were really, really hoping that by today we were going to say, well, sorry folks that we're going to scare you, but we have to give out these warnings. But we were really hoping this wouldn't have happened today. But that's why we pass along the warnings that we get from first responders and emergency crews, because they really are good at what they do. They really are good at assessing what can happen and what can go wrong, and they prepare for the worst.
And the National Weather Service.
And the National Weather Service.
Yeah, all this information comes to us. We want to act as the middleman, and we want to make sure that information gets to you.
There are cell phones, and we're going to hold all questions till the end, please. Thank you for coming to today's press conference. I'm going to start out with, first of all, my name's Captain Dave Zanaboni with Santa Barbara County Fire Department. The National Weather Service was unable to make it up here today because they were based out of Los Angeles or Oxnard and wasn't able to come in and have a representative. So they prepared a statement that they'd like me to read if I could. The intense rainfall last night was associated with a strong cold front. As the front moved into Montecito, it formed a line of strong storms that included some lightning strikes just offshore. Rainfall rates were unprecedented. The Carpinteria Fire Department has a rain gauge that recorded 0.54 inches in just 5 minutes and 8.86 inches in less than 15 minutes. Our thresholds for issuing a flash flood warning based on USGS guidance and historical information is set at a much lower rate of 0.20 inches in 15 minutes and 0.30 inches in 30 minutes. The intensity of the rain in a short duration has always been critical for debris flow activity. So even though rain totals may not seem like a big deal, 2 to 4 inches near the Thomas Fire, the quick downpours that occurred in less than 30 minutes created the damaging debris flows in Montecito. and surrounding areas. The county area and forecast is for decreasing showers ending tonight. That's from the National Weather Service. At this time, I'd like to bring up Kevin Taylor. He's the Deputy Fire Chief for Montecito Fire District.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Taylor, Division Chief for Montecito Fire Department and one of the Unified Commanders for the Santa Barbara County Incident Management Team Type 3. Beginning yesterday, the front country departments and public works began working on a plan that resulted from the work that we got from the BEAR team and the WORT team and the forecast from the National Weather Service that we had potential for a debris flow. Part of that plan included the pre-deployment of resources into the area all day yesterday and the activation of our incident management team at this location. At about 4 a.m. this morning, a catastrophic debris flow occurred in the areas between Cold Springs Canyon and Toro Canyon. Portions of that debris flow reached down to Highway 101. We are currently in search and rescue mode and have completed approximately 50 hoist rescues and several dozen contact rescues. 500 firefighters from local fire departments, regional fire departments, and all over the state are continuing to engage in our search and rescue mission and will do so overnight. We are also in the process of evacuating 300 people that are trapped in Romero Canyon. That mission will continue until it's complete as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to bring up Sheriff Bill Brown, Santa Barbara County.
Thank you and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here during this very somber day for Santa Barbara County. We are saddened to report that this incident so far has resulted in 13 confirmed fatalities as a result of the storm that came through our area last night and caused devastation in the Montecito area of the Thomas fire burn area. While we hope it will not, we expect that this number will increase as we continue to look for people who are still missing and unaccounted for. At this early stage, we are not able to release the names of those who were so tragically killed or their ages or genders or whether or not they were in certain areas. Each case has very different circumstances, and we will release that information to you as soon as possible once the victims have been positively identified and the next of kin have been notified. We appreciate your patience and your understanding as we go through this difficult process, and we ask for privacy and consideration for the loved ones of those who are receiving the worst news of their lives. Again, as we mentioned, we still have a group of people who are unaccounted for. We hope to find them safely, at least some of them safely, and reunite them with their family and friends. We are finding that some people were separated during the storm, and they are slowly being located and found safe. The focus at this point, however, in the field is on search and rescue. We still have an active search and rescue operation in progress in the field. We have a team of law enforcement officials and search and rescue crews that are actively searching for people who are missing and may still be in need of being rescued. We are not able to provide a list of missing individuals or the number at this time. This is a process that we are continually working on and is a dynamic process. I do want to thank the tremendous outpouring of support that we've had. In addition to members of the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, we have every law enforcement agency in Santa Barbara has assisted us with mutual aid. The Santa Barbara Police Department, Santa Maria, Lompoc, Guadalupe, and UCSB police departments. We're also assisted by the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office, Paso Robles PD. Los Angeles County Sheriff's is sending a 100-person search and rescue team to us for operations tomorrow. And we also have some elements of the California National Guard with us and more expected as we go through this. We also have, in addition to our joint sheriff fire air support unit here in Santa Barbara County, we've had assistance from the Ventura County Air Support Unit, the United States Coast Guard Air Unit, and the California Highway Patrol's Air Unit. Yesterday, sheriff's deputies and our search and rescue team members spent the day conducting door-to-door evacuations in the mandatory evacuation areas, which consisted of an area populated by about 7,000 people. We also issued voluntary evacuation orders for people that lived in adjacent areas, amounting to about 23,000 people living in those areas. All of those notifications were successfully made before nightfall, and while some residents cooperated with the evacuations, many did not. Many chose to stay in place. We are heartbroken, obviously, for the loss of life and the search to find those who are missing, and we still may need to rescue. But I do want to mention that the efforts last night and today also resulted in many lives that were saved as a result of the preparation and as a result of the operations that occurred today. The storm hit us hard, as you heard, just about 3 o'clock in the morning. Between the hours of 3 and 6, dispatchers from the Sheriff's Office Public Safety Dispatch Center handled more than 600 telephone calls for assistance. They received call after call from people who were distressed, stranded in their homes or vehicles, and were in need of immediate rescue. Once daylight came, we had a very difficult time assessing the area and responding to many of those areas to assist those people. The only words I can really think of to describe what it looked like was it looked like a World War I battlefield. It was literally a carpet of mud and debris everywhere, with huge boulders, rocks, downed trees, power lines, wrecked cars, lots of obstacles and challenges for rescue personnel to get to homes, let alone to get people out of them. The mud was knee-deep in many places on the roadways, and certainly a lot deeper than that in the canyons and adjacent areas. Made access very difficult and slowed down our rescue efforts. Nevertheless, more than 50 people were rescued, as you heard, by hoist rescue, and dozens more rescued from the ground. We had a significant number of injured people who were evacuated to hospitals and so forth. And you will hear later about some areas that can be of assistance to victims of this disaster, the evacuation center and some other areas as well. I want to mention that although I said we still have a focus on search and rescue, we do want to provide assistance to family members who are still looking for their loved ones. We have established a family assistance center that the Sheriff's Office is in partnership with, staffed with personnel from our Behavioral Wellness Office and the Red Cross. You'll hear from other speakers that will give you details about that family assistance center. And the last thing I want to talk about is the situation that we currently have. As I mentioned, this is an active rescue area, and we have an inordinate number of people who are in that area, people who have come to take a look, and they are actually impeding some of the operations that are occurring out there. So I want to issue a request and a warning. First, the request that people who have no business in this area or not needed in this area stay away from it, and those who are in the area and don't have any business in the area leave immediately. We will be declaring this zone a rescue zone and enforcing Penal Code Section 409.5, which requires that people, if they enter a rescue zone and are unauthorized, if they willfully and knowingly enter an area that is closed pursuant to this Penal Code section, they are violating the law. They're guilty of a misdemeanor, and the law will be enforced accordingly. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dave Zamboni.
Thank you, Sheriff. At this time, I'd like to bring up Captain Cindy Pontes with California Highway Patrol.
Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Ponce. I'm the Santa Barbara, California Highway Patrol captain. Currently, the 101 is shut down northbound at the 126 in Ventura County and also at Seacliff in Ventura County. And here in Santa Barbara County, it is shut down southbound at Milpas. As you all know, this is an ongoing incident, and Caltrans is working feverishly to clean up the debris and to get the 101 open. And the big question that we keep getting is, when will the 101 be open? And honestly, we don't know. We're hoping for 48 hours, but it could be longer. It's dependent upon the water flow. There was a water main break at Olive Mill today, which inundated the freeway with more water than the rainstorm. So they're dealing with that. Although the rain has stopped, water's still coming down onto the freeway. So it's just dependent upon the weather and the continuance of water and debris flow. And Caltrans is miracle workers, as we know. They did have the 101 open at Turnpike when we had the overturned tanker truck with a gas cleanup. They did have that open very quickly. So we know they can do miraculous work. So hopefully they can get that open as quickly as possible. And I want to echo what the sheriff had to say about when the roadways do open. If you don't have business there, don't come down just to look and see what's going on, because you are impeding the work of the individuals who are trying to clean up the roadways and debris. And we just thank you for your continued patience and support as we go through this incident. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain Ponce. This time I'd like to bring up Ron Werft. He's president and CEO of Cottage Health.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is obviously a very difficult and challenging day for our whole community. I want to thank our first responders. We're so appreciative at the hospital for all that you do to quickly mobilize these disaster sites to search, rescue, provide first treatment, and transfer those in need of hospital services. And I'm here to just give you a quick update on the team that's working in our hospitals. At 5:38 this morning, we made a decision to open the Incident Command Center at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital and prepare for the day as our trauma response teams were activated, and we began receiving patients by helicopter and by ambulance. As of 3 p.m. today, we have seen 163 patients in the Santa Barbara and Goleta Valley emergency departments. 20 of those have had storm-related injuries, and you'll hear more about that in a moment from our medical director, Dr. Brett Wilson. I just want to say that spending a fair amount of the day in the emergency department, it's just a remarkable team of physicians, nurses, therapists, and they are not only taking care of the immediate emergency and trauma needs that patients have, but also the social and spiritual needs of the patients and their families that they're experiencing at this time. Our hospitals were already very busy due to the recent surge in flu cases. Today we had 49 patients in isolation, unrelated to the storm. And so because of the recent increase in flu cases, we have had additional staff at the hospital. We've had physicians and employees who were on duty last night. They remained at the hospital so that they could support our trauma team today throughout the day and respond to these needs in our trauma center. Today at our hospitals we have 1,377 employees, many physicians and volunteers there to provide support and medical care. However, 260 of our employees were unable to report to work today because of the storm and the inability to get here because of road closures. 13% of our workforce lives in Ventura or Oxnard, and with the road closures, we've been putting efforts into place today to make sure we can get our workforce here tonight and tomorrow and get those who have worked 2 shifts or more, get them home. So we have just had great partnership with those who can help us find alternative transportation for our staff. Santa Barbara Airbus, Condor Express, Island Packers, Silver Air, all have volunteered and are working with us to make sure we can get the caregivers here and get those who are here the rest that they need. Also, local hotels have made themselves available to accommodate our staff who can't get home and need some rest. For tomorrow, we are contacting all patients who are scheduled for surgery in the main OR. We've reached all but one of those. 8 of those have canceled cases related to storm and transportation issues, but all of these cases will proceed, so we want the public to know that. And for all other patients who are scheduled for clinical procedures elsewhere in our hospitals, we are staffed, ready and prepared, and plan on continuing those procedures tomorrow. So if you, transportation permitting, please do proceed to get the care that you need at our hospitals. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to bring up Dr. Brent Wilson. He's the Emergency Department Director at Cottage Health.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brett Wilson. I'm the Medical Director for the Emergency Department at Cottage Hospital. As Sheriff Brown said, this is a sad day. This has directly impacted our community. On multiple levels, we all know somebody who most likely will be affected. But I'd like to point out our first responders have done an incredible job. They are truly heroic. The stories that are going to eventually come out from this are going to be amazing, as sad as the tragedy is that all of these families are impacted at this point. As a Level 1 trauma center, we are designed and ready to handle a large event. Granted, nobody is prepared to handle something when it's directly in your community and loved ones that you're taking care of. Out of the grace, we had this event happen just before our shift change, so we were essentially double-staffed. So our first patient came in shortly after 4:30, and subsequently patients arrived thereafter. As you heard, we've had, as of about 2 o'clock, at least 20 patients directly related to the storm event. 4 of those have been in severe critical condition. The concern at this time is search and rescue is now going to be finding people who are going to be in critical nature because of the exposure time as well as the dwell time. So I'm sure they'll speak to that. But that's our initial concern, is the people that are going to be coming in these next several hours, up to 12 hours, are going to be in significant harm's way. As Mr. Worf pointed out, we've been in a flu epidemic. Our numbers in this city, if you haven't been ill with it, you've known somebody who's been sick with it. So if we could also ask just for your guidance, if you're sick enough to come to the hospital, that's fine. We have other facilities. We have Goleta, we have San Ynez. But in this initial event, if you can give us some grace there to handle those that are truly injured and affected by this, that would be a big benefit, not only to the medical staff, but just to your own family and friends that are being treated. So with that, I'm going to leave it at that, and questions later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. I'd like to bring up Tom Farum. He's a Deputy Director of the Santa Barbara County Flood Control.
Good evening. My name is Tom Fayer. I'm Deputy Public Works Director. Over the last several weeks, we've been working feverishly to clear debris basins, and including up to last night with CAL FIRE strike teams, doing absolutely everything we could do in advance of the storm. As was previously noted, 86/100ths of an inch in 15 minutes is an unprecedented rainfall on any ground surface, much less a fire-burned watershed. As a result, the debris flows were best described as horrific. And now our job moving ahead will be to try to restore drainage back into the channels as soon as we can. It will be a long process. There is an enormous amount of debris. But we have to get our street network back open and get the water flowing back, because we will have more storms. It is January, and so we will be working feverishly in the future.
Thank you, Tom. I'd like to bring up Kimberly Coley. She's the Executive Director of the American Red Cross.
Hi, everyone. Today, our local Red Cross team has been working feverishly to serve hundreds of community members here throughout our neighborhoods. We have a shelter open currently at Santa Barbara City College. We, this morning, had been located in their cafeteria, but based off of evacuees showing up literally covered in mud, we've relocated the shelter to Santa Barbara City College Gymnasium. We do have shelter and shower facilities there, so folks are able to get a warm shower as well as some warm clothing. In addition to that, we're, of course, providing 3 hot meals a day, snacks, water, a variety of health services, spiritual care counseling, disaster mental health, as well as resources and referrals to other agencies. We've had plenty of capacity at this particular location at the gymnasium, so if evacuations were to expand or if there are still folks who need to evacuate, please join us at Santa Barbara City College. We will be there as long as we're needed. In addition, we do have additional shelter sites on standby if conditions are to change. You can call 211 if you need to receive a ride, and they will either send a ride or call for an airlift to one of the shelter locations. In addition to sheltering and feeding today, we've also had an emergency response vehicle in Montecito providing a variety of services, handing out blankets, waters, snacks, also just being there with towels and a big hug. So I just want to say thank you to our teams that have been there providing those services to community members throughout the day. In addition to that, we have been working in coordination with the county to open a family assistance center, which is located at the First Presbyterian Church, 21 East Constance. And this center has been opened to help people reconnect with their loved ones. So it will be open until 8 p.m. this evening. If you need assistance in finding other people or just reconnecting with family members, please stop by there. The Red Cross also at the center does have spiritual care counselors who are able to just talk with you about what you're experiencing. The hours for that center tomorrow will be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can also go to redcross.org/safe-and-well and mark yourself safe and well. During times like this of disaster, it's often a huge relief and peace of mind for your family members to know that you're okay. So we please ask everyone to go to redcross.org/safe-and-well and mark yourself safe and well, and also while you're there you can look for your loved ones. The website is also live on laptops at the Family Assistance Center as well. Best way to help, we're receiving a lot of calls and just want to thank everyone for all the support. As always, this community comes together when we need you the most. The best way to help right now is to go online and to make a financial contribution so that we can purchase exactly what it is that our clients will need. And you can also sign up to volunteer. So again, that would be at redcross.org. Just want to say thank you again to all of our partners, our donors, and our many volunteers. It's only because of you that we're able to do this work, and we will be here for our community as long as we're needed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Suzanne Grimsey from the Santa Barbara County Family Assistance Center.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Suzanne Grimsey. I work with the Santa Barbara County Department of Behavioral Wellness, and during the activation of our Emergency Operations Center, I work as a public information officer. A family assistance center has been opened at the First Presbyterian Church in Santa Barbara, located at 21 East Constance. The center, as noted before me, is designed for people looking for assistance in finding friends and family who have been affected by the storm. The center is being staffed by sheriff, Red Cross, Behavioral Wellness, Social Services, and the Public Health Department. We will be open until 8 p.m. tonight and from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. tomorrow. The center can also be reached by phone at area code 805-364-1822. The Family Assistance Center has been designed for just that, a safe place where families can go to receive support and assistance. It has not been designed for the general public, and we ask that our general public and media please respect this place for the families during this difficult time. For information on storm-related information, the public can call 211. They can also call the information line to receive information on the fire, on the storm, on evacuation assistance information, transportation assistance, road closures, or to ask to speak with a counselor. The storm information line is 805-681-5542, or the public may text at 805-699-0195. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. This time I'd like to introduce Vondo Reynoso. She's the director of the Santa Barbara County Public Health Department.
Good afternoon. So rainfall brings health risks associated with stormwater runoff. Stormwater is untreated rainwater that flows through our drain system into the creeks, the ocean, and other waterways. So we should view all untreated water as potentially contaminated. We know that contact with stormwater may increase the risk of certain types of illnesses, such as rashes, fever, chills, ear infection, vomiting, and diarrhea. And much more so because of the recent Thomas fire. We have fire debris and other materials that can be in the stormwater runoff. So to minimize potential health risks, we are strongly recommending that people do not swim, play, surf in the ocean, creeks, or standing water for at least 3 days following a rain event. Our staff, our environmental health staff, are conducting ocean water testing, and we have posted advisories on South County beaches recommending people to avoid direct contact with the water. Other major public health activities to support our community during this time, including support of the American Red Cross shelter with medical and nursing staff, and being in constant communication with our care facilities to ensure that the residents are safe and well cared for. And lastly, with regards to animal sheltering, we have 54 here at Earl Warren and 18 at the Santa Barbara Humane Society. Thank you.
So that concludes our speakers, and we can open it up to questions now. We keep the questions short, and maybe I can repeat them and direct it to the proper panel up here. How many people are still missing? I don't have an exact number for you, but earlier today we had identified at least 24 people that were still outstanding. And again, we're working to determine whether or not those people have been accounted for in other locations or if they are amongst those who perished in this incident. How many properties or structures have been damaged? Chief, would you like?
So as you can imagine, in an incident of this size, scope, and complexity, we're still putting that information together. We're just barely 9 hours since the incident begun and still actively in search and rescue mode. So as that information becomes available from our damage assessment teams, we'll be sure to report up on it.
The question was about evacuation orders and warnings.
We're actually going to be defining a different area, a disaster zone, or a zone that we're actually actively working at this point, which is not in the what would fit into the existing warning zones or one of our pre-designated zones. So we'll be getting that information together, and as we shift and transform from an active search and rescue operation to more of an operation where we're recovering and we're actually protecting property to a greater degree, we will do that. But right now, our assets are really focused more on determining if anyone is still alive in any of those structures that have been damaged. And we can't answer your question, but I can tell you that just from the word that I've received from deputies that were out there today, there's at least several dozen homes that have been either destroyed or severely damaged, and likely many other ones that are in areas that are as yet inaccessible. Well, there certainly was a lot of cooperation with people who were trapped in their homes and wanted to be rescued. And the evacuation last night, there were a significant number of people that we couldn't contact. They either weren't home or had already left. Of those that we did contact, it was a number that it wasn't a huge majority that evacuated. There were a lot of people who chose not to evacuate and stayed in the area. Well, I think there's been a preliminary assessment probably of all neighborhoods, but there's, for us to conduct follow-up searches, and typically we will try to search any given area and any given residence 3 times that's been impacted. Once an initial check, a secondary follow-up, and then a more detailed check as we can. But there's a couple of areas where the roads themselves are still pretty inaccessible. There were areas, for example, during the rescue where they were hindered even from the air trying to rescue people because of the tree canopy that was in the area as well. You have another problem in that you have certain homes that have been pushed off their foundation and into creek bed areas and so forth. And as I said, we're in the process, if we haven't completed an assessment initially of every location, but we need to go back and start doing that second and that third assessment on those buildings. We have received a number of calls and have been working throughout the day to get to people at specific addresses who've been able to contact us and that we know are there. Many of them are otherwise unharmed, and they're sheltering in place and waiting until such time as we can get to them and assist them. Obviously, the focus is to try to get to people who may be injured and not able to contact us and look to them. But we will be continuing operations tonight, the remainder of this day, tonight, and tomorrow to get as many of those people evacuated from their homes as possible. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that there was flooding and mudslides in all areas, in both the mandatory and the warning areas.
So I guess my follow-up to that is, was that unexpected, and are those areas potentially where harm was done to property or people?
This isn't an exact science in terms of, actually defining where something's going to happen. Obviously, a lot depends on Mother Nature and the magnitude of rainfall, the magnitude of the mudslides, and so forth. And I think what was put together by a team of people, meteorologists, CAL FIRE, our Forest Service people, our firefighter, and personnel from flood district and so forth, a best guess estimate as to where this was going to occur. And as it turns out, they were exactly right that this was going to hit. And as I've mentioned before, during the many fires that we've had, we do not take evacuation orders lightly in Santa Barbara County. If there's an evacuation order issued, it's because there is a serious threat to public safety. But it isn't possible, particularly in a situation like this, to define to the house or to the block or to the neighborhood where things are going to actually, what's going to actually be impacted. We have a group of people in Romero Canyon that are completely cut off, and they're otherwise safe as far as we know, but they are unable to get in and out of that area. And we are in the process of mounting an operation to evacuate them from that area by air. I think there was a lot of frustration on the part of people who had been evacuated for a number of days during the fire, obviously, and nobody likes to be evacuated from their home. And I think the thought was that, this is probably not going to be a problem, but ultimately it obviously was. We're actually trying to determine if people are still alive right now and rescue them, not define where they actually were at this stage. The question, I guess, is the area safe now? In other words, to stay in? Is that what you're saying? Oh, I can't really answer that. I think maybe Tom Fairham could talk to you about that. Thank you.
Unfortunately, all I can tell you is that I can't tell you anything right now, just at the respect of families. It's just every family is been dealt a significant tragic component to this. And so I think out of respect for those families, I think let's figure out how this is all going to play out, and let's work on those stories in a future date.
One or two more questions, and we're going to wrap it up. I can't answer that. Burnham Wood?
The area in Burnham Wood is being utilized as a casualty collection point for those people that were not able to immediately evacuate from the area. So the people are taken that are injured or can't get back to Burnham Wood, and then we evacuate them from there.
Okay, I think that's going to end our news conference, press conference today. Thank you all for coming.